Hey everybody, Brian's back here again, out and about. Gonna try something different today. I'm currently on my bike, so instead of doing a typical walk and talk like in the first two episodes, I'm gonna do this on the bike. I have my little tripod hooked up to the front of my bike. I'm gonna see how well that holds up. It's gonna be a trial run basically. I'm at Foster Park, still in Fort Wayne. I would have normally started at the beginning for the filming, but there's a lot of construction and a lot of residential areas I just didn't want to film. So I'm kind of at a somewhat midpoint for my ride. There is an old mall on the south side of town here. It was torn down many years ago, and they put up a Walmart, Menards, all that stuff. I'm gonna go to that Walmart and get a little bit of a drink and then come back to my car. So I think I'm gonna do just do my little ride down there and see if I can talk to you during that time. If the sound's a little off, if the shaking is too much, let me know. Again, I try not to edit this at all. In fact, I haven't edited anything. It's just a straight raw shot. You, me, and the environment. So let's go ahead and get going here. So when I do a bike ride, this is typically my path. I start in the southwest side of town. There's a little park over there called Sweeney Park. And I ride it basically by the rivers into residential areas. Up into a spot where there's heavy construction going on. They're taking out an entire bridge. It's a bit tenuous getting through there. They have part of the bridge opened up where if you're not paying attention, you could fall right in the river. Definitely not a good idea to be over there if you don't need to. The bike I'm on, I'll try to show it at the end of the video. It's a Townie. If you're familiar with bicycles, it's not the best bike for distance. So if you want to go fast, you want to get to where you're going as quickly as possible, that is not the bike for you. This bike is really for those who want to make a quick jaunt down to the store, convenience store, something like that. Pick up some milk, some snacks, head back home. It's got that retro sort of feel to it. I liked it. It cost me, I think it was about $400 when I bought it new. The thing now is probably worth $50. I've ridden this thing all over the place. Not in good shape, and you'll see that. I desperately need it cleaned. I don't even have my brake and the front tire hooked up anymore. So, I wanted to put out a video earlier this past work week, but things started to get kind of busy for me. My main job is up and running again because the kids are back in school. I work in special ed. I don't remember if I mentioned any of this, but I work in special ed in an elementary school. And I went back in for some professional learning, so to speak, this past Wednesday, and the kids were back in on Thursday. It's been kind of a bear because if you've never worked in a school before, the very beginning of the year is really tough because the kids need to get reacclimated to procedures and stuff. And some of them get it okay, some don't. It's just a very long day because you're not really in a groove yet. But generally speaking, the team I'm working with, I'm in 5th grade. The team I'm working with is really good. I have positive outlook for the season. Ooh, it's getting kind of bumpy here. Really good for the season, I think. So see how that goes. I also have a night job. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I work at a facility to help people get their high school diplomas. So think about folks that may have dropped out for one reason or another. They come to me. kind of tell me their story, and I try to give them what they need by way of, getting them taught up to take and pass that test. I have to teach pretty much everything from math, social studies, language arts, science, up to about 11th grade comprehension. Depending on how I feel about my normal job, I may keep the night role. It was really just supposed to be a summertime job to keep me busy. I'll see how that goes. I'm also in a master's program. I think I probably mentioned that, for school psychology, so there's a lot going on. But I wanted to get out a video earlier this week because I wanted to address something that had happened. In episode 2, I think it was episode 2, I had mentioned how there are a few players in the WNBA whom I just didn't really like. It wasn't anything against them personally. It just, I don't know, they kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So, sure enough, after I released that, there was news that someone on that particular short list had signed with the Lynx. And that's Dejanay Carrington. I don't particularly find myself too interested in her. I've watched her play for a couple seasons now, and what really bugged me was that she would play with those really long nails. I would start calling her Wolverine on the court because of the way she plays defense. She plays really good defense. But I've watched her rake people in the face multiple times. She caught Caitlin once. She caught Jessica Shepard right near the eye. I mean, she could have really poked her eye out, left a mark on her face. But here we go. Now they're playing together. I'm more than willing to give someone the benefit of the doubt, who used to be a foe, could now be a friend. I get that. And I've watched Dejanay play a couple times now in the 2 games that she's been in with the Lynx. And she tries. I mean, she's not just phoning it in for a championship. So I'll give her that. I just can't get around the nails. I can't get around the eyelashes. I can't get around the hair. It's all superficial, I get that. But when you watch the Lynx play, and I know you have some strong personalities on the team too. You got the stud buds. They're fun. But it's a serious team. I mean, they're playing for a championship. They're the odds-on favorite right now. We're presuming Nafisa's coming back in probably a week and a half or so. There's a long stretch of games against the Liberty they got to get through. Even tomorrow, they got to go to New York and play the Liberty. Even without Brianna, they're a dangerous team. They have so many weapons. It's very similar to the Lynx, I feel. I don't think they have as cohesive of a team. But man, if you let Sabrina get off, she's gonna pour 30 on you in a heartbeat. She's a scary player to play against. But when she's off, I think she gets rattled. So if we can play some good defense, keep her on her toes, force the supporting cast to start playing a little better, it's going to be a really tight game, but I've already conceded that I think the Liberty is going to win Sunday. If the Lynx pull it out, excellent. We'll take the win. But being realistic, home court, Liberty is going to try to get their pride back from the last game, even it up for the season thus far. I can see it happening. No big deal. But beyond that, as much as I enjoy watching the league, faults and everything, there's something that's a little bit out of their control right now. And it bugged me yesterday because I was watching the Lynx and the Mystics play. Now, Washington is deceptively good. I think, and I said this when I was watching the game, I was doing the play-by-play on the phone, where you can put little messages in during the game and stuff. You know, I congratulated the Lynx for winning. I was happy with that. But I said, look, you know, the Mystics have a lot to be happy about. They have a young squad. They're playing well together. And I said, you know, Sonia Citron she's just an absolute gem. Rookie year, taking a lot on her shoulders. Just lost Brittany Sykes. I mean, arguably their best player. I don't know what happened there, but she's gone. It's basically Sonia's team now. Kiki's still kind of finding herself. I don't know if I am bought in with her quite yet. But I love Sonia. I think she's great. She's got tenacity. I mean, that's something that goes far in that league. If you have the confidence to take the ball to the rim and you follow through with it and you're willing to take that hit, you're going to fall on the floor or whatever, I want to see more of that. That's what I like. And she does that. Doesn't look like she would. She's a fairly quiet player in her demeanor and her personality, but man, almost like a smaller version of Sabrina. I just see her exuding a lot of confidence, and that's great. I wish only the best for her. Even if the Mystics had won that game, I'd say the same thing. Fantastic player. But during that game, something happened that happened in another Lynx game a few weeks back. It may have actually been the Mystics again. I don't remember. Oh, no, it was the Sun. Connecticut had gone into Minnesota and nearly beat the Lynx. But at the end of the game, there were two instances where there was a disputed call. So Coach Reeve had challenged. Good idea. And then we got into the deliberation stage with our officials. And both times at the end of the game, the Lynx had won the calls. Now last night, same thing happened. Close game. There was a call of a potential foul on Dejanay Carrington against Sonia. Didn't look like much to me, but it was called a foul on Dejanay. Reeve threw the challenge flag, so to speak, and the deliberation began. Now this thing took probably a good 5 minutes. You know, in my personal feeling, and I wrote this in the messages, if you make a call, you're official and you make a call, and someone challenges it, okay, you've got 1 minute. You get over there to the screen, put on your headset, and you view this play for 1 minute. If you still can't decide, if you can't come to a solid conclusion enough to overturn that call, just keep it. If you're taking 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, and upwards of 4 or 5 minutes to look at one play, and you still can't decide, or you're forced into choosing something, then you probably made the right call from the beginning. Do us all a favor, stop doing that, put in an official's timer, stop killing the momentum of the game, let's get back on the court. It ticks me off. But it happened last night in that play, and then not even like 2 minutes in the game time went by before it happened again. We had another play. I don't even remember what it was. And I said, oh, here we go again. Gotta deliberate. Let's see how long this takes. Now, thankfully, it only took a few moments. But it was another challenge by Reeve, and it was successful. And I said this before. She is the sharpest coach in that league. She's got a great, band of assistants with her. As far as coaching acumen, tactical, thoughtful, strategic, really good. Holy crap. So I'm going to pause my talk here for a second because we're going to get into a little wooded area. Notoriously buggy, so I don't want to get bugs in my mouth. I'm going to try to adjust my seating here a little bit. I'm wearing a hat. I tend to wear a hat every time I go out biking. I'm gonna try to keep it below my eye line a little bit to prevent the bugs from coming in. You may not be able to see it, but to my right there's a river running by this path. There's gonna be a bridge up here. Maybe I'll go up there for a second to kind of give a little bit of a nostalgic tour so you can share in my sadness. So I spent a lot of my life, in fact, I spent all of my life, I've been in the city. I've never lived anywhere else. My youth years, up until age, my early 20s sometime, I don't know exactly when, I lived on the south side of town. And it was a notorious area for the perception of crime. Not really a lot of crime though, just the perception of it, because of the demographic that lives out here. Terribly unfair, not based upon legitimate evidence, just perception. Because when you think south side of any town, you think the worst. Well, it's pretty unfair here. But I never had any problems at all in this area. We live so far south that we're basically on the edge of the city, living on the highway. Little trailer court out there, and you know how trailer courts get a bad rap. Again, pretty unfair. I'm making up this big hill here, so I want to come over here and show you a little building as I try to adjust this phone stand I have here. There we go. So we're crossing the bridge that goes over the river. We're getting into a neighborhood called Waynedale. I spent many, many years growing up here. This is basically on the eastern side of that neighborhood. I'm going to stop right about here for a second. So you see that sign says Penguin Point Restaurant, and that sad message underneath, close or closed, close. This was a little burger joint. If I remember right, it was specific to our area of Indiana. Think of like drive-in, sort of like little simple burgers, simple fries, things like that. Very cheap food. I used to come out here on my bike, get a little cheeseburger, fries, and a bottle of water. Exactly $6.06. And then I continued my ride out south to where I used to live in the trailer courts. There had been 2 of these locations here in Fort Wayne, one in some nearby cities. So there's probably a good 4 or 5 of them within a short drive of my home. One day I was looking through Facebook and I saw a post from the corporate offices saying that they're closing down. And I was legitimately heartbroken. It's a place I had grown to love for many years. I mean, going way back to my childhood. And I was spending my birthdays there, just, occasional visits just to get something to eat or whatever. But then they ripped it away. All that was left was the locations that were outside of my town. And even those had to close up. And it's funny how that works, because there's a running joke where I say this to my wife all the time. I went to find this particular, bottled drink I enjoy, but they got rid of it. Well, it's because I liked it. They found out I liked it, so they got rid of it. It seems to be happening a lot nowadays. And I'm not quite sure if it's just the nature of business and time, lingering problems with COVID, because that was the original problem with our Penguin Point here in town. The one we had years ago, that had closed up just for poor business. So this one that I just showed you, that was the last one in town. But when COVID hit, they closed down their lobby. So you could only go in there for drive-through, which was fine because I still enjoyed it. I would just sit out in the car because I love this area. But like with other restaurants, they just decided, you know what? We're not going to bother trying to get this back up to where it used to be. We're just going to kind of close it down and say enough's enough. And I've seen that all over the place. One of our Dairy Queens, I like Dairy Queen too. Even like years after COVID, they just wouldn't open up their lobby. And they explained it's because they didn't want to hire anybody to work inside there to monitor the patrons who came in to eat. So rather than just getting back to normal, they said, well, we're not going to pay anybody, so you're just going to have to drive through the whole time. Well, some of the companies who did that, some of the restaurants, they got away with it. Some of them didn't. Some of them had to go under because they didn't want to pay anybody. And if you remember that time in our history, not only do we have a lot of companies and businesses that just didn't want to open up, there were a lot of people who didn't want to work. That's a bad combo. But nevertheless, we got through it. We seem to be back to normal in some ways, but I think COVID as a disease was really bad, but as a lingering effect upon a city or a town, that may be the worst thing of all, at least on a grand picture. I know a lot of people were very, very affected by COVID to the point of losing their lives. It's just, it's awful. It's hard to reconcile that. And that's, awful enough. And when it seeps into, commerce and businesses, and it's just... But anyways, we're getting into now Tillman Park. Not a whole lot going on here. There is a disc golf course here. I tried disc golf a couple times. It didn't really work for me. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I just don't have a lot of power. The games I like to play either require no power or are heavy into finesse. I don't have that arm strength to throw a disc that far. I've watched some people do it, and they're incredible at it. It's one of those sports where I'd rather just watch people play it than try to do it. They've also got a few baseball diamonds back here, and I'll show those to you. Pickleball, tennis, that sort of thing. Probably get more into that when I get there. In the meantime, we're getting to a point in the season, WNBA season, where I think it's pretty clear who's primed to make the playoffs and who's not. The question is positioning. Who's going to play whom? Now, if I had to guess, which teams are likely to kind of make a move, I don't think I could guess accurately. Now, if I remember right, the WNBA employ a lottery system for their draft picks. If I remember right, meaning even if you're the worst team, you're not guaranteed the first pick. I don't know if that's the case. I think it is, but I'm not sure. Because when I watched the Sky. The Sky was playing. Wow, I don't even remember who I watched them play. Anyways, Chicago was playing. They were actually doing pretty well. They got to halftime. I think they may have been up a little bit or down a little bit. It was a fairly close game, relatively speaking. And the second half came around, and they just got thrashed. And I don't like thinking in terms of conspiracy theories, because I just don't think it's really negative. I don't want to focus too much on the negative. But I sometimes wonder, and my wife made a comment about this too, because Angel Reese is out. Apparently she's had back issues or whatever. That information's been kind of vague from what I could tell, just like a back issue. It's like when in doubt, just call it a back issue. So she's out. The rest of the team isn't really playing that terribly. I really like Rachel Bannon. I liked her back when she was in Minnesota for that short period of time. I think she's a great shooter. I think she's someone I'd like to have on my team. I think I could depend on her. She's kind of like that little Swiss Army knife sort of player where if you need her to amp up the defense, she will. There's really a lot of players I can say that about. I'll probably be saying that in every episode. There's probably someone who occurs to me as being someone that's like, you know what, they're pretty much a coverall. If you want her to drive, she'll drive. You want her to shoot, she'll shoot. Cardoso's great. I like Rebecca Allen. Kia Nurse, she's a good veteran. I don't know if that's the team for her, though. She seems out of place in Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if she moves on elsewhere, especially with Vandersloot coming back. I mean, if she comes back at all. She's been playing a long time. I don't know how much more she's going to put into this, especially for that team. But, again, with some... if they do what the Mystics did, load up on a bunch of young players, they could be looking really good in a few years, especially if Reese continues what she's been doing. And she continues to work on her shot, that mid-range game, maybe get some hooks going in there, practice that a bit. They're going to be a really tough team to beat. Because that's something that I noticed last night between the Mystics and the Lynx. I've never liked the idea of stacking everybody around the perimeter, having someone shoot a three, and everyone else runs the other way. I just think that's bad basketball. I want to see somebody go up for a rebound. There's too many times when someone shoots and everyone just bails out, presuming it's going to go in. Well, it's not the case. You can see your success rate with three-pointers, your field goal percentage. It's not 100%. Somebody get under there, get a rebound, and use two hands. Don't just flip it out like you're playing volleyball or something. I want to see people get under there and grab those boards. And I made mention of Jessica Shepard in my last episode, and I still think she's great. I love watching her play basketball. She's tough. Real tough. Alana Smith, I cannot make sense of her. She's good, but it doesn't appear like it. Like she just, out of nowhere, she has like 20 points and 10 rebounds. It's just weird how that works. There's a certain players where just out of nowhere, they're running up the stat sheet. But, you know, I like Alana when she's shooting the ball from 3. I like it when she is, you know, blocking under the rim. She has a great eye for blocking the ball. What I don't like, and I yelled this at the screen last night, if she is moving to the basket and you pass her the ball, do not bounce past that ball. You got to get it up in the air. For some reason, she bobbles when the ball is low and has to bring it up. If you get it high, she's there. Like, she knows what to do with the ball when it's in the air, not so much when it's on the ground. But I'm glad she's a Lynx. I really am. In fact, that entire team. And they just added another player, Cameron Taylor. She has some play time in, I think it's Greece, from Illinois, I believe. Peoria girl. She's got some good numbers. I don't think she played yesterday. She just got on the team. Both the addition of her and I keep wanting to say Yvette. It might be Yvonne. They added her a week or two ago. She got a little bit of play with Nafisa out. They're adding more muscle. They're adding more defensive stature. They're already a good defensive team. I mean, really good, probably best in the league. But to add more like that, that's good. And it's going to take me a while to accept Carrington on the team. But with her performance in the first game, I think she had 13 or so points. And what I saw last night, I'm willing to give her a shot. I think it's only fair. So if she does well, good for her. Good for the team. So I'm going to pause up here. So I need to get this camera to straighten up. It keeps wanting to fall backwards. But I'm going to show you something up here. It's kind of fun. You might be able to tell on the right side of your view, little tiny houses. You might be able to see a little tiny train over there. I'm going to get back up on the path here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. We have a safety village for kids to learn about road safety and bike safety and all that stuff. It wasn't always out here. When they tore down the mall, they made this the, is that a sandpiper over there? Let's see if I can. And we got a couple sandpipers on the trail here, making all that noise. Oop, there it goes. So yeah, they moved the safety village over here. And when I was a kid, I never went to this one. There was one that was located downtown. That was a lot of fun. They put you on little motorcycles and whatever, really normal stuff. I'm sure they're all the same everywhere. Except this one's pretty cool. And the kids love it because it really does look like a little tiny town. But I got a little story about this. You can file it in the funny, not funny category. So this little playground in the front here, there had been a house that the kids could kind of walk into. Little windows, just walk in, walk out, really small, about the size of a small shed. Well, I was on a field trip with third grade as an assistant, and we came here to spend the day. And when all of the learning was over with, they let the kids play in the playground. So I was just kind of walking the area here, watching the kids and everything. And all of a sudden I heard this scream, a bloody scream. And I look over at this house, and there were kids. They're like, "Hey, Mr. Brian, she stepped on a nail." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "She stepped on a nail." I go in there, and there was a board on the inside wall of this little house structure that had fallen down, and all these nails were exposed. And these kids are running in and out, and I'm actually surprised there weren't more of them who were impaled by this stupid nail board thing. But yeah, we pulled her out, and yeah, her foot was pretty bloody because it punctured her foot, of course, and we had to tell the parents and talk about tetanus shots and everything. But I told the people who were working here, "Hey, how is this a safety village when kids can walk in this house and get impaled by nails?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we need to do something about that." So instead of fixing it, they just got rid of it. So where that little bus is, I think you can see it. Yeah. There was a house. No more. This place is kind of cool. Not only can they drive around little, what do you call them, like little motorcycles or motorized cars of some sort. This building over here, they actually learn about fire safety. And they sit and they look at, burned up things. There's like a simulated room that it simulates what a room would look like after a major fire. Everything's just melted away. And they watch videos and they take part in certain things, but there's a house behind this brown structure, and it's decorated like a real house. There's an upstairs with a bedroom and everything. And they have the kids up there, and then all of a sudden they turn out the lights and they pump fog throughout the house. The fire alarm goes off, and the doorknob to their bedroom heats up. So it simulates that idea of having to get out of a house. Now you can either go out the window, where you set up a little ladder and there's someone down there to help you with that, or you go down the stairs in this pitch black fog of blinking red lights and noise to crawl out of the house. It's really, really immersive. I like that quite a bit. I had fun doing that. I won't be able to do it this year because I'm not with third grade. This year I'm going to what's called Starbase, which is like heavy science. They're going to be creating rockets and things and doing that for, I think, for 10 weeks straight. We're going to be taking them out to Starbase to learn about that stuff. So I think it's going to be okay. This year's fifth graders are seemingly pretty docile. Last year's were a mess. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that happens in the late fall, right before Christmas break, I believe. Kids tend to enjoy it. They kind of poo-poo it at the beginning. They're like, "Oh, this is fun. We want to come back here." It's like, yeah, I know. Let's get back to the books. Right. So this area, like I kind of mentioned, this is the old mall area. And if you remember 1980s malls, this was the prototypical 80s mall experience. Oh man, I loved it. You can't really see it from here, but there's a road. Well, you might be able to see the cars back there. There's some going to the right. They're going down the highway. This is South Anthony Boulevard, and it connects to US 27 south. If you keep going down there, there's a trailer court where I used to live. Now, when I was a teenager, I'm talking probably around 94, 93, 94, 95, somewhere around there. I had skipped school to ride my bike down the highway just to go to the mall, to go to the arcade to play Mortal Kombat 2. I wasn't a bad kid, not in the least. It was the opposite, in fact. Very, very good kid, always on the straight and narrow. There were just times when I wanted to do something a little more thrilling, a little more not so tightly under control, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you just want to let loose and do something, naughty or whatever. So that's what I did. I think I only did it twice, if I remember right. Knowing full well that anybody could say to me, "Hey, why aren't you in school?" But it didn't happen. I kind of knew what I was doing. I never really did anything that was too risky or anything like that. A lot of it was innocent. But that was fun. I have very fond memories of this area. Not so much now. Excuse me. I have to get a drink here in a second. Because of what they've done. And you'll see it when I get around the corner here. Because my goal is this little Walmart over here, just to get a my typical pickup is an Olipop. I like Olipop. And one of those little like fruit and cheese packaged snack things. You might see like SpongeBob or Paw Patrol, little kitty-like snack platters or whatever. I like the one that has the apples, the cheese, pretzels, and then sometimes like either like gummy fruits or they call them dog biscuits. Those little like graham cracker cookies that look like whatever characters they're from. I'll probably pick up one of those and take it back to that park I went through a little while ago and sit over there at the Ball Diamond. I might get back on the road. Sorry for the shake there. To the left here, you can kind of see it. This is a safety, kind of like a public safety, I don't know what you would call it. Like, it's tied to our first response, the police department, Public Safety Academy, that's what it is. I think they send cops here to learn different things and such. I've never been in here. I might try it sometime because during election periods they put the voting booths in there and people in this area can come out and vote. If I'm allowed to, I probably wouldn't be allowed to because of where I live. I wouldn't mind going in there and checking the place out. It's pretty cool. This was the back end of the mall, so this would have been, I think Sears and service merchandise. Maybe JCPenney. I'm gonna swing back around here. The Walmart's to my left. I'm not gonna go over there quite yet. I want to go up to where all the action is up here and then get kind of a general view of the area as it is now. And kind of give an idea of why I'm not too keen on this anymore. So depending on where you live, I'm going to presume that you're in the United States somewhere. And if you live in a small metropolis like me, you'll probably notice how many of these typical stores tend to pop up all over the place. So where there used to be a cool mall, Now there's a Walmart that's now behind me. There's a T-Mobile over there. Wow. To my right here is going to be a Menards. Wow. There's a Wendy's. Whatever. And then over here to the right, all the typical stuff you would expect. Kind of roll around here, get out of the way of the traffic. So we have an auto zone. Oh boy. Starbucks. Yep. Everyone's favorite daily addiction. Taco Bell. There's a Firestone down there for your tires. Just a lot of exciting things. Probably understand why I'm not too wild about being out here now. It's really just the path that I like. They always talk about how it's not about your goal, it's about the journey. And rarely do I agree with that, but in this case I do agree. The path I took for this video, it does mean a lot to me, because I do have a lot of history that I rekindle, a lot of memories that come back up for the path itself. So it's one of those cases where I have to enjoy the process more than the production. And that's unusual for me. I like having clear goals and working toward those goals and accepting that the process is not going to be a big part of that, at least as far as the enjoyment or the satisfaction is concerned. Park my bike. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here and park it. And call it quits. I'm going to show you my bike real quick. Remove this thing. Yeah, that's my Townie, all beaten up. Used to be a beautiful blue, now it's covered in brown. But that's it. So until next time, have a good one.